There are places in the galaxy where light itself seems to hesitate, where the fabric of space holds memories too heavy for stars to carry. The Viridian Expanse was such a place, a graveyard of worlds where ancient civilizations had risen and fallen like waves against an eternal shore. Among the scattered debris of forgotten empires, a single research vessel drifted in patient silence docked Dr. Temos. Blackridge stood before the observation window of the survey ship Eternal Whisper, his 6 eyes tracking the slow rotation of a massive crystalline structure floating in the void. As a Keltharian scholar, he had spent 40 cycles studying dead languages and abandoned technologies. His exoskeleton was marked with the silver bands of academic achievement, each one representing a mystery solved, a puzzle decoded. But nothing in his extensive career had prepared him for what lay before him now. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, and it pulsed with a rhythm that reminded Temos of a sleeping heartbeat. His assistant, a young Fraxian named Orin Silverwhisper, floated nearby in the low-gravity section of the ship. Orin's translucent skin rippled with nervous patterns of blue and green, a telltale sign of his species when confronted with the unknown. They had discovered the structure 3 days ago while charting unexplored regions near the galactic edge. At first, Temos had assumed it was a natural formation, perhaps some exotic type of crystal that had coalesced in the cold darkness between stars. But as they drew closer, the scans revealed something that changed everything. The structure was artificial, built with precision that exceeded anything the Concordance of United Worlds had ever achieved. TEMOS activated the translation matrix for the 100th time that morning. Watching as it attempted to process the symbols carved into the structure's surface, the machine had been struggling with the language for days, catching fragments here and there, but never producing a complete translation. The symbols themselves seemed to resist interpretation, as if they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Professor, you should see this." Orin's voice carried through the communication system, his words tinged with something that sounded like fear. "The deep scan just completed, and the results are impossible." Temos moved through the ship's corridors with practiced ease, his powerful legs carrying him to the analysis chamber, where Orin hovered over a holographic display. The data floating in the air before them showed the internal structure of the crystalline formation, layer upon layer of machinery and technology, so advanced that it appeared almost organic. "What am I looking at?" Temos asked, though part of him already knew the answer would be troubling. Orin gestured with his upper appendages, causing the hologram to rotate. "This structure isn't just old, Professor. According to our dating methods, it's over 12,000 cycles ancient. But look at the power signature." He isolated a section of the scan, highlighting a core deep within the structure. "It's still active. After 12,000 cycles, whatever energy source powers this thing is still functioning." Temos felt a chill run through his body, a sensation his species only experienced in moments of genuine terror. No known technology could operate for that long without maintenance or refueling. The implications were staggering. "There's something else," Orin continued, his skin now pulsing with rapid patterns of orange and red. A translation matrix finally decoded a section of text. "But Professor, what it says doesn't make any sense." The hologram shifted, displaying a string of symbols alongside their translated meaning. Temos read the words once, then twice, then a third time, unable to believe what he was seeing. "Here lie the archives of humanity, built in the age of expansion. Let those who find this place know that we walked among the stars when the galaxy was young. We shaped worlds and bridged the void between dimensions. We were the builders, the explorers, the guardians of the cosmic frontier. This monument stands as testament to our journey." "Humanity?" Temos whispered the word as if it might shatter in his mouth. "But that's just a myth. Every child in the Concordance learns the old stories about the mysterious precursor race that supposedly existed before any of our civilizations achieved space travel. They're fairy tales, nothing more. Orin's skin had turned a pale shade of white, a sign of extreme distress in his species. Professor, if these humans were real, if they actually existed and built things like this, then what happened to them? Where did they go? And why did they leave behind something that still functions after 12,000 cycles? Before Temos could answer, the ship's alarm system erupted in a cascade of warning sounds. Emergency lights bathed the corridor in red illumination, and the artificial gravity fluctuated wildly for several seconds before stabilizing. What's happening? Temos demanded, activating his communication link to the bridge. The voice of Captain Vex Ironheart, a gruff Taurian warrior who commanded the Eternal Whisper, crackled through the system. We've got a problem, Professor. A big one. Long-range sensors just picked up a massive energy spike at the edge of the system. Something's coming through the jump point, and it's moving faster than anything I've ever seen. Temos raced to the bridge with Orin close behind. When they arrived, the main viewing screen showed a sight that would haunt his dreams for the rest of his life. Ships were emerging from the quantum fold, dozens of them, each one larger than any vessel in the Concordance fleet. Their hulls were dark, almost black, but they gleamed with an inner light that seemed to pulse in time with the ancient structure. The vessels moved with purpose and precision, arranging themselves in a formation that spoke of military discipline and overwhelming power. And on the hull of every ship, clearly visible even at this distance, was a symbol that matched the markings on the crystalline structure. A symbol that represented a species the galaxy had believed extinct. If they had ever existed at all, the humans had returned. And they had brought with them a war fleet that could shatter worlds. The bridge of the Eternal Whisper fell into a silence so complete that Temos could hear the rhythmic clicking of his own respiratory system. Captain Vex Ironheart stood frozen at his command station, all four of his arms gripping the console as if it were the only solid thing in a universe that had suddenly stopped making sense. The viewing screen displayed an armada that defied every principle of physics and military strategy that the Concordance had developed over 10,000 cycles of spacefaring civilization. Scan those vessels, Vex ordered, his voice steady despite the tension that rippled through his muscular frame. I want to know what we're dealing with. The tactical officer, a spider-like arachnoid named Pitra Silkweaver, worked her controls with frantic precision. Her 8 eyes darted across multiple displays as data streamed in from the ship's sensors. Captain, the readings are contradictory. The energy signatures don't match any known power source. The hull composition appears to be some form of adaptive metal that shifts its molecular structure in response to sensor sweeps. It's as if these ships are alive. Temos moved closer to the tactical station, his academic mind struggling to process what his eyes were showing him. Each human vessel was a masterpiece of engineering that seemed to blend art with function. Their designs were sleek and elegant, yet there was something predatory about them, like great sharks moving through the cosmic ocean. They're not scanning us, Orin observed, his translucent form trembling slightly. They're ignoring us completely. Look at their trajectory. They're heading straight for the crystalline structure. He was right. The human fleet moved past the Eternal Whisper as if the research vessel didn't exist. Their formation remained perfect, unwavering, as they approached the ancient monument that Temos had been studying. As the ships drew closer to the structure, something extraordinary happened. The crystalline formation began to glow brighter, its pulsing rhythm accelerating until it matched the frequency of the lights on the human vessels. They're communicating, Temos breathed, his scientific instincts overriding his fear. The structure is responding to their presence. It recognizes them. A beam of pure light erupted from the largest human ship, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed everything else in the system. The beam struck the crystalline structure, and suddenly the monument transformed. Sections of its surface peeled away like the petals of a flower opening to the sun, revealing a complex interior filled with machinery that hummed with renewed purpose. "Professor, the translation matrix is going wild," Orin called out, his skin flashing with patterns of white and gold. "It's receiving a transmission, but not through any conventional channel. The data is being transmitted directly into our computer systems through quantum entanglement." "That's impossible," Petra interjected. "Quantum communication requires paired particles that have to be prepared in advance. There's no way they could have access to our systems." Orin's expression suggested he agreed with their assessment of impossibility, yet the evidence was undeniable. The transmission is resolving into text. It's addressed to any concordance vessel in the vicinity. Temos felt his heart's racing as words appeared on the screen before him. The message was written in perfect galactic standard, the common language used by all member species of the concordance. But there was something about the phrasing, the cadence of the sentences, that felt alien despite the familiar words. To the observers who have found our archive, greetings across the vast expanse of time. We are the descendants of those who built this monument, the children of humanity who have returned to reclaim what our ancestors left behind. For 12,000 cycles, we have wandered the spaces between galaxies, growing, evolving, becoming something more than what we were. We left the Viridian expanse when the great silence fell, when an enemy from beyond the cosmic veil threatened to consume all sentient life. We departed to draw that enemy away, to fight them in the darkness where no other species would be harmed. That war has ended. The enemy is vanquished. Now we return to find our old home populated by new civilizations, new voices calling out into the night. We come in peace, but we come prepared. Events are in motion that will test every species in this galaxy. A threat is emerging, one that your concordance does not yet recognize. We have seen its shadow growing in the void. In 60 cycles, it will arrive in force. We offer our aid, our knowledge, our strength. But first, you must believe that we exist. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew in stunned silence. Temos read the message 3 more times, his mind racing through the implications. If the humans were telling the truth, then the galaxy faced a threat that required the assistance of beings who had fought wars across intergalactic space. "Captain," Petra's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp with alarm. "The human fleet is changing formation. They're spreading out across the system, taking up defensive positions. And sir, our long-range sensors are picking up something at the system's edge. Multiple quantum fold signatures, dozens of them, maybe hundreds." Vex's expression hardened. "Show me." The main screen shifted, displaying a region of space that had been empty moments before. Now it boiled with activity as ships began emerging from the quantum fold. But these vessels were nothing like the elegant human craft. They were jagged and asymmetrical, their hulls covered in what looked like organic growths. They moved erratically, twitching through space like insects. "What in the name of the ancestors are those things?" Vex demanded. Temos felt ice form in his core as recognition dawned. He had seen drawings of ships like these in ancient texts, in warnings carved into ruins scattered across a dozen dead worlds. "They're devourers," he whispered. "The enemy from the old legends. The ones who consumed entire civilizations and left nothing but silence in their wake." The devourer fleet was massive, easily outnumbering the human vessels 10 to 1. They arranged themselves into a swarm formation, preparing to sweep through the system like a plague. Temos could see smaller craft breaking off from the main fleet, moving toward inhabited planets in neighboring systems. "They're going to attack the colonies," Orin said, his voice hollow with dread. 3 million Concordant citizens live in this sector. They'll be defenseless. Before anyone could respond, the human fleet moved. They didn't accelerate gradually like normal ships. They simply appeared in new positions, instantaneously translating across thousands of kilometers in the blink of an eye. The lead dreadnought positioned itself between the Devourer swarm and the approach vectors to the inhabited worlds. A new transmission came through, this time transmitted on all frequencies, ensuring every ship in the system would receive it. The voice that spoke was warm and unmistakably alive, carrying an accent that Temos couldn't place. Attention Devourer Collective. This system is under the protection of the human defense fleet. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. This is your only warning. The Devourer response came in the form of 1,000 weapons firing simultaneously. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and exotic particle streams converged on the human dreadnought from every direction. The attack was devastating enough to vaporize a planet. The human ship's hull shimmered, and every single attack simply stopped existing. The weapons fire didn't bounce off shields or get absorbed by armor. It ceased to be, as if reality itself had been edited to remove the threat. Then the humans returned fire, and Temos understood why the galaxy had once whispered their name with reverence and terror. The dreadnought's weapons tore through the Devourer fleet like paper, each shot precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. Within seconds, a quarter of the enemy ships were drifting helplessly, their systems shut down by technology that made the Concordance's best weapons look like primitive tools. "We need to contact Concordance Command," Vex said, his voice tight. "They need to know what's happening here. The humans aren't a myth. They're real. They're powerful beyond measure. And they're fighting a war to protect us from an enemy we didn't even know existed." As the battle intensified, Temos realized that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy's history was wrong. The humans hadn't disappeared. They had been protecting younger species from threats beyond imagination. And now they had returned, not as conquerors, but as guardians who remembered their ancient duty. The battle raged across the Viridian, expanse like a storm of light and fury. Yet inside the eternal whisper, time seemed to move differently. Temos watched the human fleet dance through space with a grace that transcended mere technology. Each movement was poetry written in starlight, each tactical decision a brushstroke on a canvas of infinite darkness. The Devourer swarm, for all its numbers and ferocity, was being systematically dismantled by a force that fought not with rage, but with precision born from thousands of cycles of experience. Captain Vex had established a communication link with Concordance Command, but the response from the Central Worlds was slow, bureaucratic, mired in disbelief. How could anyone explain what was happening here? How could words convey the sight of legends made flesh, of myths stepping out of ancient stories to defend a galaxy that had forgotten them? Orin floated beside Temos, his translucent form now pulsing with colors that spoke of wonder rather than fear. "Professor, look at the pattern of their attacks. They're not trying to destroy the Devourers completely. They're hurting them, pushing them back toward the edge of the system." The young Fraxian was correct. The human vessels moved with purpose that went beyond simple combat. They struck with enough force to disable and intimidate, but they left escape routes open, allowing the Devourer ships to retreat if they chose. It was a display of restraint that spoke volumes about the true nature of humanity. A smaller human craft broke formation and began moving toward the eternal whisper. It was sleek and silver, no larger than a standard shuttle, but it radiated power that made the research vessel's sensors scream warnings. Petra tensed at her station, but Captain Vex raised one of his hands in a gesture of calm. "Stand down. Let them approach. If they wanted to harm us, we would already be dust." The human shuttle glided alongside the eternal whisper with impossible smoothness, matching their velocity perfectly. A communication request appeared on the bridge displays, and Vex accepted it without hesitation. The view screen flickered, and for the first time in recorded history, A living human appeared before the crew of a Concordance vessel. She was unlike anything Temos had imagined. Her features were delicate, yet strong, her skin a warm brown that reminded him of fertile soil under a gentle sun. Her eyes were dark and deep, holding within them an intelligence that seemed to perceive everything at once. She wore a uniform of midnight blue adorned with symbols that spoke of rank and achievement, but it was her smile that captured everyone's attention. It was kind, genuinely warm, and it carried no trace of superiority despite the overwhelming power her species commanded. "Hello," she said, and her voice was like music that had learned to speak. "My name is Commander Rhea Stormwind. I apologize for the dramatic nature of our arrival. We had hoped for a more peaceful first contact, but the Devourers forced our hand. They've been tracking us across the void, and we couldn't allow them to harm the civilizations that have grown in our absence." Vex stepped forward, his warrior's bearing somehow inadequate before this being who radiated such calm authority. "Commander Stormwind, I am Captain Vex Ironheart of the Concordance research vessel Eternal Whisper. We have many questions, and I suspect you have many answers." Rhea's smile widened. "Indeed, Captain. But first, let me put your minds at ease. The Devourer threat to this system is contained. My fleet will ensure they pose no further danger to your worlds. What matters now is understanding, and for that, I think a face-to-face conversation would be more appropriate than speaking across the void. May I come aboard your vessel? I promise I'm quite harmless, despite what your sensors might suggest about my ship's capabilities." The request hung in the air for a moment. Temos found himself holding his breath, aware that this moment would echo through history. This was more than first contact with a lost species. This was the reunion of families separated by time and circumstance, the joining of past and future into